Hello Stampers, my name is Linda Bedinger and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Denver, Colorado. And today I have a very fun card for you. It's a unique fold. I've not seen anything like it before, and the lady that created, or that I saw that had this, I found her on Pinterest. Her name is Karen Semess, Semess, Lilleseth, Lilleseth, and her blog is Whiff of Joy, and this is a very old post of hers. It was April of 2013, but I'd not seen this fold before, and so I had to adapt it because the card that she made was bigger than normal size, and so it took a little bit of figuring, but I figured it out, and I've got it down to where it's a standard card size, and it's very interesting. So let's just get started. Okay, here is my card, and it's I'll pull this piece out. It's got I put it on a base. Hers was just this part of the card without a base, and it was quite a bit larger, so that the size of the card was oversized. And so I manipulated it down to where the card that sits on the base here is 4 by 5 1/4, and the base is 5 1/2 by 4 1/4, so it's a standard size, will fit right in your normal envelope. And then this piece here, I made mine a birthday card, slides in here, and then you can write your own message on the back of this card that goes in here, and then this fits neatly in a standard sized envelope. And so you start out with a circle with this, and I thought I would just take you through the steps of what it took to make this card. So I have a couple things to do here. I have my trimmer, and I have my circle drawn on a piece of this free paper from Sale Abration that is part of the Lily Pad suite, and I have my circle drawn here on my piece of paper. And it just turns out that my china, this particular plate in my china set, and I found one other paper plate that are 8 inches circular. And so what I did was I drew my circle on the back of my paper first. Then I'm trimming down my circle by finding the edge of my circle in this channel that I'm going to cut. And I'm going to show you a way to do this, because scoring a circle can be a real challenge. So you can see here, I'll bring this up, that I have cut right to the edge of the circle. And then this piece will move away. And then what I'm going to do, now that I have a straight edge on that side of the circle, is I'm going to move this over on my trimmer, and I'm going to catch this edge in my channel here. Let's see if I can see that. I'm going to bring my light in just a little bit closer so I can see it a little bit better. And light is the key to so many things. But there I'm right up against the edge, so I'm cutting right to the edge of the circle again. And I'm going to do that all the way around my circle. So I end up with a piece of paper that is 8 inches by 8 inches. And I can still score, because you have to score this in order to get it folded properly. And scoring a circle is just an incredible challenge. So I'm taking the edges off. I can take off just a hair more of that one, and I'm going to do it because I want this to be as true as possible. So there's another little sliver gone. And then this one, which I'm going to set right in my cutting channel there, and cut that. Oops, I can do that a little bit closer too. Very deceptive, all these little, they're 1/32 of an inch. Okay, so there we go. Now I've got my circle encased, if you will, in my 8x8 square piece of paper. So now I'm going to bring up my scoreboard, which I thought was probably a little bit easier to work on with this. Now my paper is directional, and I want my lily pads going the right direction. So the very first thing I'm going to do is I am going to put this on against the edge there, and I'm going to score this piece. I'm going to look at my notes here. Let's see. Well, what I've got to do is score this piece at 5 1/4 inches. So, but I want the 5 1/4 inches to be the long side. So I'm 8, so I have to subtract 5 1/4 inches from, let's see, let me grab a little piece of paper here. So I've got 8 inches, and I need to subtract 5 1/4. So that will be 3/4. So I need to score this at 2 3/4. So I'm going to come up here to, I'm going to turn this around so I can see a little bit better. Come up to 2 3/4. And regardless of the size circle, you're always going to score this at 2 3/4 if you're going to mount it on a card base. So 2 3/4 on my square. That way, when I fold up this bottom piece, that will help me be right on target for where I need to score. All right, so now once I do that, I'm going to turn it, I had it this way, I'm going to turn it 1 turn or 1/4 turn, and I'm going to score this at 2 inches and then again at 6 inches. And what that's going to allow me to do, that makes this centerpiece here 4 inches, and it makes this length here 5 1/4. And that's what I wanted to do to be able to mount it on my card. Okay, now that I've got that properly scored, what I can do, let me move this out of the way. I'll use my scissors and trim away the rest of this excess paper to create my circle. So I'm just going to come across here, and I'm going to cut right on that line. You can cut right on it or in just a little bit. It doesn't really matter, because once it's scored, it's going to give us what we need. And it's never going to be perfect anyway because we're hand cutting a circle. Okay, so there's my circle cut, and you can see my score lines. So what we're going to do is fold this end in towards the center and this end in towards the center. And in this case, these two pieces meet practically right in the middle. And I'm not going to do anything but finger press this because it is designer series paper, and we sure don't want our paper to crack. Okay, then we're going to fold this one up here, and then I'm going to cut along this score line here right into the center as straight as I can, and I'm going to cut it to this score line here, and I'm going to do that on both sides. It was really fun to find something so different and that I hadn't seen a bunch of places. And what we're going to do, the way you fold this is you fold these two ends in, then you fold this end up, and then these ends fold back around this way. And you can tell if you're off a little bit because what you want to have happen is that these edges need to come up here, and I can see that what I'm going to have to do is trim a little notch on the bottom of this so that'll close up properly. Yep, that'll do it. Okay, now in the larger version of this, I can see that I'm off just a hair on getting those score lines perfectly lined up. There we go. And finger press those into place. And you can see this is what we end up with. Now, when the lady that made this did this, she did this with a 10-inch circle to start with. And she didn't worry about the final size of the card, so her card was quite a bit larger. And what happens is this is an example of a 9-inch circle, and what she did on hers was that she made this a double pocket so that you could put a tag in here and you could put a message in here. For my purposes today, I really only wanted one pocket. So I made my circle a lot smaller, which is why I ended up putting this decoration on the front, which you can do in this one as well. But it's easy if you make it a little bit bigger. And hers was 10 inches, so I made these to be just about the same size. This one is a 1/4 inch longer so that it would only leave a margin on your paper on either side, and it would go to the top of the card and the bottom of the card, but it's real easy to make that adjustment. But you can see where you can close these up and get 2 pockets. And like I said, for my purposes today, I wanted, and by the way, I will, when I put this one up on my blog, I will put the measurements that I figured out for an 8-inch, a 9-inch, and a 10-inch circle to have it come out a standard size card. So you'll have to give me a couple days to get that up on my blog, but I will do that. So this is what we have so far. So we started out with an 8-inch circle. Let me show you what else you have to make this. I used garden green as my base, and so I have a garden green piece that is 5.5 by 4 1/4, so just a 1/4 panel of a regular 8.5 by 11 sheet. And then I have a piece that is 3 3/4 by 4 3/4, and that's the base for going in here. Then you need a piece of scrap of, and I did my flowers here in Flirty Flamingo. I made another one, I don't know where it got to, and I did flowers in Lovely Lipstick, but I'm going to do them in Melon Mambo. So you need a little piece of scrap of Melon Mambo to do your flowers. You need a little piece of scrap of white to make the 2 pieces that we have here, and a little piece of more garden green scrap to make the pieces here. All right. So what I used then was I used Beautiful Friendship, and I used Birthdays Are the Best Days because I wanted something that was fairly substantial to fit on this card. So I liked that one. And then from the lovely Lily Pad, I used the large flower and the small flower. And I think that's all I used from that one. And then on the dies, let's see, I've got my die set over here. I used 2 sets of dies. I used the Lily Pad dies, and I used the large and the small flower. So once I stamped my flowers, I cut them out with the dies, and I got a large flower and a small flower. And then for my sentiments on the inside of my card here, I used the Stitched So Sweetly. I hadn't had a chance to use these. They're stitched and scalloped, which was kind of fun. And I used the largest and then the 3rd largest. So the way I number them, the largest one on the outside is 1. So I used 1 and 3 So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is the way I would number that, and I used 1 and 3. Okay, so that's what I used to make my pieces here. And so I'll move some of those things out of the way. And I have already die cut my pieces that I needed for the inside panel. So let's just get started putting this together. So the first thing I did was, with all of these circular shapes, I thought that the top of the card and the inside card should have rounded edges. So I have my corner rounder punch here, and I'm doing the upper corners of my green card base. And then I did all 4 corners of my white insert piece. Then these pieces I've already die cut to these 2 pieces here. So we have a little bit of stamping to do, and I'm going to restamp this because I'm going to end up making this card or more of this card. I'm doing this for a swap. We were challenged to do a fancy fold, and I was bound and determined to find one that was a little bit different, and I think I succeeded because I certainly have not seen this one in recent time. And like I said, her original post is 2013, but yeah, and I don't know where she got the idea, but she didn't give a lot of detail on her blog. So I decided if I was going to do it, I was going to do it and give you the details so you could have some choices about the size that you made and whether you really want it to be 1 pocket or 2. So I'm going to stamp my large flower on here. Oh, I'm doing this without my mat. Got away with it. And then I have my small flower that needs to be done on here. I think I'll turn this one around and get it to fit right over here on this corner. So you don't really need a very big piece of paper, but there we go. Well, I did a little bit better without the mat on that first one. That's that corner there. Let me try that again on this side. I just re-inked this stamp set or stamp pad too, because you have to make sure you put plenty of pressure on the middle. There we go. That's much better. So I've got the large flower and the small flower ready to go, but as is my practice, I like to get prepared a little bit ahead of time. And so here I have die cut out my 2 flowers, and they're all ready to go. So the next thing we have to use is the garden green ink, which I have here, and my stamp, and I need to get my pierce mat back here. And this one is Birthdays Are the Best Days, and I've got my garden green ink, and we're going to see if I can't do this and get it straight. Ordinarily, what I would tell you to do is stamp it and then die cut it out. But for the video, I was going the other way. So that's the right side of that. And I'm going to set that right down there in the middle. And hopefully that'll be straight. There we go. Birthdays are the best days. Very nice. All right. So there's so much going on with this one. I didn't feel we needed to do any raising on this. And that's really like the inside of the card anyway. So I'm just going to add some snail on the back of my garden green panel here and center that on my white panel. There we go. And then do the same thing with this. Add a little bit of snail to the back of this and center this on here. There we go. All right. So that is all done. And let's work on this piece now. Since I don't care about the second piece here, if I were going to try and make this smaller one a second pocket, what I might do is put a piece across the bottom here and then mount my flowers on it so it would complete a pocket to go ahead and put something here and put something in here. But I didn't care much about that. I want mine to be flat. So I'm going to put my glue on this part of the panel. Down here, I want to make sure that I don't put any glue that goes above here or goes in this spot here. So I'm going to put it on the pieces that will be on the bottom so I don't accidentally put glue where I don't want it. All right, now I can close this piece up and get that secured down. And now I've got my little pocket. I think I can afford maybe to do a little bit of burnishing ever so lightly with my bone folder. I want this to stay pretty closed. Get this out of the way. And so turns out this paper is fairly sturdy. Okay, so there we go. I'm all set there. And these flaps, since I'm not going to be using that as a pocket, can also be glued down. So I just love the way the colors and the patterns show up on these semicircles. So I'm going to close this down here in place, and you can see that I'm kind of sticking over the edge here a little bit. Circles are a little on the tough side to work with, so I'm just going to trim that piece off. And I've got a solution for this kind of ragged edge down here. I have a couple pieces of ribbon that I have pre-cut, and I have a small piece, and this is that, let's see, what's the name of this ribbon? This is the reversible ribbon that is Old Olive and Pretty Peacock, and I think that works just beautifully with this piece. And so what I've got is the shiny or the more satin side of this ribbon, and I'm running it right along the bottom to hide any of those rough edges on my card. So I'm going to put a little bead of glue, and I'm going to use my dot runner here, just along the bottom edge, and I'm going to put my ribbon so that it covers that bottom edge. Oops, that's the wrong piece of ribbon. I want to use the smaller or the shorter one because the other one's going to make my bow. Okay, so on the bottom of my card, just to cover up any rough edges, and then I'm going to add some snail on the back here and secure my ribbon down. And on these, I'm going to have those go up so they make sure we don't see those from the front. There we go. All right. So there is my pocket made. Isn't that pretty? So then I think this can go on here, and I matched this so the rounded edges were at the top and the square edge is towards the bottom. So now this piece can get mounted on here, and I deliberately made this piece 5 1/4 by 4 so it would sit on my base with a good margin all the way around and look balanced. So on the back of this, and because this is a pocket that's going to be sitting on the top, I'm going to lay down quite a bit of glue on this piece to make sure that it holds down really well. I'm going to put some extra glue on the ribbon here and an extra bead at the top. Okay, so this is ready to go on here. And I think that looks pretty straight and with a good margin. All right. Now, I picked, in the case of the sample card, I used Flirty Flamingo to do my flowers here on the bottom. And on another card or another sample here, I used some lovely lipstick. Now there's not a lot of difference between those two, but I kind of thought that the Melon Mambo on here would be, it's just nice and bright, and I like that idea. So what I'm going to do is put some dimensionals on the back of my flowers, and I'm going to put several of them because this is part of the piece I want to hold this bottom part together. Okay, so there's my larger flower, and I set that one so that it was towards the middle but going off this way a little bit. And then I have my smaller flower, and on this one I'm also going to put a couple of dimensionals. And put that one going maybe on top and a little bit this way. There we go. Now we have our piece that we made here, and that's ready to go on the inside of the card. And then I just have my ribbon to make, or my bow, and this is a piece of ribbon that has two different sides and colors. So when you put this bow together, you put the loop together for the side that you want to have showing, and when you wrap it around the back, you twist it and then put it back through so that same other side comes through on this side, and then you get the colors that you want up. I have bow making videos up on my channel, and you can see how I put together my bows, but I think that is plenty there. And this piece that I put on the bottom was about 6 inches, and this piece, this larger piece, let's see, is about almost 10, is right at 10 inches, and that's enough to make a little bow for your card. So I'm just going to cut my tails off here and put on a couple of glue dots on the back of this, maybe one on each loop of the bow and one in the center. Let me get these two put down first. Right here at the center where the two panels meet, and then I'm going to take a third glue dot and put it down on this other loop right behind here. To hold all of that down, and now that's not going anywhere. Now then, the last finishing touch that I put on my card, and you'll have to tell me if you like the other colors. It's kind of pretty with the Flirty Flamingo, because you certainly see that in the paper as well, and then the back side kind of matches. I used the Noble Peacock rhinestones, and I put one of the very largest ones right here in the middle of this panel, just above my birthday message. And then I put on a couple of other ones down here, a large one or medium-sized one and a smaller one, just to put it in place here and give a little extra sparkle to the card. So that is my project for the day. Thank you so much for stopping by my YouTube channel today. I do so appreciate it. And if you don't already have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I'd love to be your demonstrator, or you could join my team. We have a month left on the special offer from Stampin' Up! For joining that is just amazing. It's about $185 worth of product, I think I figured out, for $99. And you start out with a 20% discount on your product. And you have until the end of June to complete your first minimum. It's a pretty good deal all the way around. My telephone number and email are listed below the video, and I'd love to talk to you about it if you're interested at all. So thanks again for stopping by, and I'll be back soon with more cards, more projects, and more tips. Bye.